Hello, I'm Sarah Feeman, Managing Editor of Business and Finance. Welcome to our Executive Insight series in association with KPMG, where we speak with business leaders about their insights into strategy, success and overcoming challenges. Today's episode features Donal Murphy, CEO of DCC. Donal, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a real pleasure to be here, Sarah.
Great. Well, listen, let's start with DCC. You know, DCC was nominated for Company of the Month in September 2023. What are some of the key business strategies that you think contributed to that success?
Sure. Well, DCC has been around for many years, almost 30 years a public company. It'll be 30 years this year. And I think one of the key things to the success of DCC has been actually a consistent strategic framework. We want to build a growing, sustainable, cash generative business which consistently delivers returns on capital well ahead of our cost of capital. And we do that across three diverse sectors: the energy sector, the healthcare sector and the technology sector. And that framework has been consistent for many, many years since we went public. I think one of the key things with it, though, is about building leadership positions within the markets you're in. So we started here, small investments in the Irish market, grew them to market leadership position. We then expanded across the water into the UK, built the businesses within the UK. And today we have a business in 22 countries across 4 continents. We have a very devolved structure, so we're a devolved, decentralized organisation, and that's very important in terms of how we manage the businesses. It drives great agility across the organisation, and then we're really focused on driving high levels of operational excellence across our businesses. So if you walk into any of our businesses, they'll always be really proud in talking about the metrics that they produce within their organisation to drive that competitive advantage. And then as an organisation, we've always been very financially disciplined. So maintaining a strong balance sheet, driving high cash generation and high returns on capital. And over the years then, within our 3 sectors, we have followed the trends within those sectors to enable us to accelerate our growth. And if I take our energy sector, which is the biggest business within the group, it's 70% of the organisation. You know, we've built a leadership position across 13 different countries. We have 9.5 million customers that we serve every day. But the biggest opportunity is to help those customers today to decarbonise, and that's driving really strong growth for us within our energy sector. Within our healthcare sector, people are living longer, they need care, so we provide the products and services either into the acute care hospitals or into the primary care. And then we have a wonderful business on the contract manufacturing side that produces the nutritional supplements that all of us take. And again, people are taking more and more supplements to live a healthier, better well-being within their life. So that's driving strong growth within our healthcare business. And finally, our technology business, we supply a whole range of technology products. And as we all do, we use more and more technology. And, with the advent of AI, technology is becoming more pervasive in everything we do. And DCC provides the technology to enable that progressive world. So very clear strategies, providing products and services that people need every day for their everyday lives. And that has led us to delivering a 14% growth in our operating profit year on year, almost for 30 years now at this stage. Right,
so some really interesting statistics there. And I suppose the key leadership position strategy that you talked about there, is that something that evolved over the last couple of years with the team, or was that a very deliberate new strategy that you decided on?
Yeah, no, it's been a consistent strategy. As a business starting in Ireland, it's a small market, so you build a leadership position within the Irish market, and then we're very ambitious for growth. So you go to a bigger market, so you move to the UK and so on into Europe and now into the US. I think if we look at kind of some of the deliberate strategies over the last number of years, 5 years ago, we had no business in North America. Today, we have 30% of our capital employed in North America. We have 3,500 colleagues in North America, all 3 sectors, but we have tiny market shares. So the opportunity for quantum growth within the North American market is there for us today, and that's been a deliberate strategy over the last number of years.
So great potential for growth, obviously. And Donal, what about you? What are the personal characteristics that you bring to DCC?
I suppose I am drive. I'm a very driven individual. I'm very ambitious for the organisation. I am a little bit impatient at times, so pace is very important to me in what we do. But all my background has been, on the innovation side. So I've been a huge believer in using technology to drive competitive advantage within businesses, and I've applied that during all my time within DCC. And then, the most important bit is, I'm very much a people business or a people person, and DCC is a people business. We buy and sell other people's products, be it commodities on the energy side or healthcare products or technology products. So our competitive advantage is in our people. So, being people focused, hopefully inspiring and motivating our people is a key part of what I do across the organisation.
And that drive and ambition that you've mentioned, is that something that you've always had? I
think it is. It's I don't know whether you're you kind of grow into it or you're born with it, but I've always been an ambitious person and a driven person. I don't like to sit still, so full of energy, and I try and apply that into my day-to-day work. Yeah,
proactivity is key. And I suppose you've been CEO of DCC for 6 years now, is that right? Yeah, since 2017?
Yep, 7 nearly, yep. Yeah.
What are some of the challenges, I suppose, that you've faced throughout that time, and how have you managed them?
Yeah, look, I think, you can throw out all the big challenges that we have. We're a business now, 22 billion, we're across 22 different countries. So you can talk about geopolitical challenges, you can talk about supply chain challenges over the last number of years, inflationary challenges. But actually, those challenges are, to be adapted. Businesses are very quick and agile in terms of dealing with those challenges. I think the biggest challenges are, the pace of change within the world today, adopting technology across the businesses, reinventing yourself, because, if we look forward, that pace of change is only going to get faster. And if you sit still, you'll be left behind. So very much trying to drive change and innovation into successful businesses is a challenge, but it's something that I love to do and very much embrace. And I think the other side is the people side of things, and everyone talks about the war for talent. It's hard to get people, and that is something that you've got to work really hard to build and grow talent within the organisation, and then to unleash that talent, so that you can get the best for the people within the organisation. That's something that we spend a lot of time on.
Okay, and you mentioned the pace of change, which I think is really interesting because it is relentless somewhat. How do you know when to not change something? How do you know when, yes, something might be changing, but we can actually just, stick with what we have?
Yeah, I think that, again, I think consistency and strategy is very important, so that you're not chopping and changing with, the latest trends that happen within the market. But at the same time, I think you've got to be really alive to, what could disrupt your business, and thinking all the time about what the competitors might do, what the new innovative organisation might do. And you can look at lots of businesses that, have just got caught up in their legacy, haven't been able to adapt and ultimately get left behind. And I think it's always it's a great example to look at. If you pick any of the public indices and you look back over 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, and you look at the companies that existed back then, huge organizations that don't exist today.
Right,
and why don't they exist? Because they didn't adapt to the environment that they were in. So sometimes success can be your downfall, so you've got to all the time, challenge yourself that, there's better ways to do things, and, go after that.
Okay, very interesting. And I suppose on the same note, what advice would you give maybe, in addition to that, to people who are seeking to emulate the success of DCC and yourself?
I think, something that we do and I do across the organisation is to try and set ambitious goals, clear goals, but ambitious goals. And I think set your ambitious goals and then really go after them and leave no stone unturned to achieve them. I think often, it's tough, at times, and people, maybe don't drive as hard as they could to achieve their goals. And I think if you set reasonable goals, but they're ambitious goals, you can achieve them. And I think go after it, dream big, and win.
You may have already answered my next question, which was, how would you define success and what drives you to succeed? So I think you've talked about drive and ambition and that and setting goals, but could you expand on that a little bit? I mean, how would you define success?
Yeah, and say for us, again, it's about having those clear strategies, having ambitious targets, and then breaking them down into real tangible plans to go and deliver against it. And, success for me is when you achieve those goals, but you do it for the benefit of all stakeholders. And I think that's very important. And, it's not, ESG is a huge topic today, and, people talk about ESG and they talk about the broader implications for business, but that's something we've always believed in. Sustainability actually was in our strategy statement right back to when we went public, because if you're not building a sustainable business, you're not going to be here for the long term. So having those goals, having the ambitious goals, but actually, going and delivering on them and making sure that you're benefiting all the stakeholders. And I'm a great believer in win-win. We've, when it comes to acquisitions, we've bought 450 companies over our time as a public company. And, lots of people go at the win-lose thing, and you don't win unless it's a win-win. So, great believer in win-win methodology.
That's interesting. And how do you share that with your team? I mean, what's the best way to kind of impart that ethos or that strategy with other team members?
Yeah, I think, being true to what you say, and delivering on what you say. So there's no point me saying, you want to have a win-win situation and then someone's coming forward with, an acquisition proposal, and you're, arguing over the tiny little points in it. I think it's about putting yourself in the shoes of the other party and making sure that, you do the right deal for yourself, or you have the right business deal for yourself, but that, the other party feels good about it at the end of the day. And I think if you believe that and you live that, then the people in the organisation will do the same.
Okay, so allowing a little bit of leeway as well.
Yeah, I think that's very important. You've got to empower people to deliver.
I think that's a really good point. And changing tack completely,
sure.
What talent would you like? If you could choose any talent, what would you go for?
It's funny, it's always it's a good question, and for me, and maybe it's a small point in some respects, I'd love to have linguistic skills. I'm not very linguistic, and as you build a business over multiple different countries, I'd love to be able to have all the languages now. Plenty of them still speak English in the 22 countries we're in, but across the different countries, so that you can in their own language. And unfortunately, I don't really have that talent. I can speak a little bit of French, but very little are the languages. And I think it just makes it so much nicer when you can engage with people in their own language. So go back to school, I think, is the answer.
That's a good one. I think for me it would be probably handling mathematics better. So we can't be good at everything, right?
The maths is okay. The maths is okay.
And I suppose in the same vein, if there was one thing you could change about yourself, I'm sure there isn't, but if you had to change something, what would it be?
Sarah, there's lots of things I'd like to change, if I'm honest, but I think the one thing, and this might sound a bit trite in some respects, I'd love to be 20 years younger today. And that's not because, I don't like being the age I am, but I just see so much opportunity in the world going forward. And you can get depressed and say there's lots of challenges across the world, but the opportunity set is massive. And with technology, with the way the world is evolving, can build global businesses easier than you could do it 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I think that pace of change we talked about earlier in technology, I think it's just, creates lots of opportunities, and that's what I suppose gets me sparked.
You've mentioned a few different ethoses and strategies for business and for life. I suppose you seem to have a very positive outlook. What would your mantra for life be, and why?
Yeah, I think you've got to be maybe again it comes back to innate within me, but I've always been positive. I think if you don't have that positivity, it's very hard, to achieve things. So I think positivity is very important. But for me, and I'll steal one of the catch lines from a big brand, nothing is impossible. I've always believed that nothing is impossible if you put your mind to it, if you work hard. And, I look back at my career, I look back at my life, and, if I put myself into the young Donal, I've achieved lots of things that I wouldn't have dreamt I could have achieved many years ago. And, that's really been kind of, dreaming big, working hard. I always say this to people in the organisation, work really hard at making yourself redundant. And people look at me, what are you saying? But, if you don't make yourself redundant in your job, you can't go on to do another job. And lots of people try and make themselves so important in their own role that they limit their career, ambition or their career options. And, I've always had the opposite view. As quickly as you can, build talent underneath you to replace you, and then you can go on and do something else. And, so that's helped me in my career to, I suppose, to the role I have today.
That's fantastic, and I think it's such an inspiring outlook. I mean, have you had a number of mentors throughout the years, or where did you develop these particular outlooks from?
Yeah, I've learned so much from lots of people that I've worked with, both, I suppose, in the professional world, in the sporting world over the years, and you learn lots from different people. I couldn't say there's one person that I'd pick out that, taught me various different things. I think you build up from experience and watching other people that you respect, and your own ethoses.
Okay, fantastic. And now I have one final question, and I doubt you've that much downtime, seeing as you're so busy, but how do you spend your downtime when you have it?
I do have downtime, and I think, again, I think that's very important, because I don't think you can do your job properly, if you don't have good balance. A balance varies at times, but if you don't have good balance within your life. So for me, family comes first. I'm incredibly lucky. I have a wonderful wife, 3 wonderful daughters, and a wonderful granddaughter now at this stage. So family is very important. But my passion, kind of from a sporting perspective, has always been cycling. So before I went into the business world, my career aspiration was to become a professional cyclist. Now I was okay, but I probably wasn't good enough. But I've always cycled, and it's the best way for me to not just get exercise, but to clear my head. So that's a big passion. And rugby then as a follower as opposed to as a participant.
And plenty of that going on at the moment, yeah.
Lots of it going on at the moment, and again, you look at the success of the Irish team from a small country, and it goes back to that thing about, if you believe, if you dream big, you can be the best in the world. Fantastic.
So that's a good note to finish up on. Think big. Yeah.
Think big.
Donal, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome, Sarah. It's been lovely.
Well, that's all we have time for in this episode of Business and Finance's Executive Insight series. Thank you so much, Donal, for joining us today, and thank you for watching. You can find more episodes of Executive Insights at businessandfinance.com or on YouTube and Spotify.